Let's take a look at my Week 5 NFL picks. I'm rolling, ladies and gentlemen. I've got some good momentum right now. My record is pretty solid. So I'm going to go through some key games this week, and we kick things off with the Atlanta Falcons and Pittsburgh Steelers. By the way, some tight games so far this season, and that's why the NFL ratings are so good. The average margin of victory has been 9.9 points per game, a mark that would be the lowest in a full season in 86 years since the NFL record was set in 1932, which was 9.13 points per game in terms of differential. All right, so Falcons, Steelers. The Steelers are the favorite on BetDSI. The over-under is set at 58. This is going to be a high-scoring affair. Now, Atlanta lost to the Cincinnati Bengals a week ago. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Baltimore Ravens a week ago on Sunday Night Football. So the key players for the Falcons: Matt Ryan, of course, the quarterback position. Julio Jones, another guy to watch out for. He has 614 receptions for 9,556 yards and 43 touchdowns in only 99 career games. But he's too obvious, so I didn't put him on the board. Devontae Freeman is a guy to track because he has been on the injury report lately, hasn't played since week 1. Looks like he could be good to go. And then Grady Jarrett has been absolutely outstanding so far this season at the defensive tackle position. We usually don't talk about the guys on the line of scrimmage as much. I like to give these guys their due credit because Grady Jarrett has been fantastic, so he'll be going up against Pouncey there on the interior of that offensive line. Meanwhile, with Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, Mr. Dramatic himself. How will he perform this week? We shall see. He's been up and down so far this season. It's quite clear he has not been on the same page with his wide receivers so far. He even said as much. So something to watch for in this game, the chemistry between Ben Roethlisberger and his wideouts, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown, all of that good stuff. All right, so Pittsburgh, the favorite by 3. I think the Steelers win this game by more than that. 37-30, your final score. The Falcons have some problems on that defensive backfield. A lot of injuries on that defensive side. Neal, the safety, out for the year. Jones, the linebacker, out for the year. Cornerback has been a little rickety at times. Same can be said for Pittsburgh, but I'll take the Steelers at home. Tough loss against the Ravens. I think they're in for a bounce-back week here. I'm starting to have my doubts about the Atlanta Falcons. I still think this is a really balanced roster that Atlanta has, but eventually the injuries are going to pile up. And if the injuries continue to pile up here for Atlanta, you just don't have as much talent on the football field. I think Pittsburgh has more talent in this game, and I think they win. Now, let me know who you got. Type F for Falcons, S for Steelers. Going to be an interesting game this week. That's in the early window, 1 o'clock at Heinz Field. So I go 37-30, Pittsburgh. We are sponsored by FanDuel here on the Cam Rogers Show, the #1 daily fantasy app out there. Check them out, FanDuel.com. You got to use that link, /chatsports. And when you sign up, deposit $5, you're getting $20 for free. Simple. FanDuel.com /chatsports. Sign up and go ahead and deposit some cash for some free cash to play with on FanDuel. FanDuel.com /chatsports. All right, so I got Pittsburgh over Atlanta. Let's talk about Kansas City and Jacksonville. So nobody thought this was going to be an exciting game before the season. And what do you know? This could be the best game of the week. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Chiefs are the favorite by 3. They are undefeated. They beat the Broncos on Monday Night Football, so they're coming off a short week. Meanwhile, the Jaguars dismantled the Jets and Sam Darnold at home a week ago. Currently, first in points allowed per game are the Jaguars. The Chiefs are first in points scored. So something's got to give. The #1 scoring defense versus the #1 scoring offense. Let's take a look at my key players for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Calais Campbell has been a monster so far this year. In fact, the entire defensive line for the Jacksonville Jaguars has been absolutely stellar, and this is not surprising at all. Yannick Ngakoue has been great at defensive end out of Maryland. Great player. Marcel Darius continues to play well on that interior. Malik Jackson is really good too, and Calais Campbell as well. Then the secondary with Jalen Ramsey and Tashawn Gibson and Barry Church and A.J. Boye. Now on the offensive side, T.J. Yeldon is the guy to watch for because Leonard Fournette is going to be out for the next few weeks, it appears. So it's going to be the T.J. Yeldon show. Meanwhile, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, what can we say, guys? Absolutely unbelievable stuff that we are witnessing from one of the young gunslinger type of quarterbacks in the NFL. He is a fantastic QB to watch. Travis Kelce, the tight end, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, going up against the linebackers for Jacksonville, Telvin Smith, Miles Jack. And then Dee Ford, one of the edge rushers for the Kansas City Chiefs, has been stellar so far this year. He's ranked 11th among all edge rushers out there on Pro Football Focus. Justin Houston playing pretty well as well. So the Chiefs are the favorite at home by 3. Over-under is set at 48. My pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, 28-20 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Usually, when the number one scoring offense goes up against the number one scoring defense, the number one scoring offense wins. From a historical standpoint, that is a fact. And also, the number one scoring offense is at home. At Arrowhead, crazy atmosphere, Blake Bortles, no Leonard Fournette. I'm sensing a lot of third and long situations, which tells me Justin Houston, Dee Ford, they're coming after Blake around the edge. So who you got? C for Chiefs, J for Jaguars in one of the fun matchups here this week. A lot of good games in the early window. So you guys are going to see some really fantastic matchups in the early portion of your Sunday, but some good late window games as well. So go ahead, type away. Let me know what you think about Jacksonville taking on Kansas City. All right, let's talk about the Oakland Raiders taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are the favorite on BetDSI, -5 there. Over-under is set at 52.5. So the booksmakers out there are thinking, hey, maybe it could be a high-scoring-ish game. The Raiders are coming off a victory against the Cleveland Browns, their first victory of the season. Meanwhile, the Chargers beat the 49ers 29-27. Corey Liuget returns at defensive tackle from suspension. A lot of players are actually returning from suspension, most notably Julian Edelman. He played last night for the Patriots. But for the Chargers here, I don't know what to make of this team. But at the same time, I don't know what to make of the Raiders. I don't know these teams' identities yet. And I know we're in the early going of October, so we should have some idea. But also, I still need data. I still need more games from some of these teams out there, Raiders and Chargers included. So with the Chargers here, Phillip Rivers has been really good so far this year. The offensive line has been good enough, but Pouncey in particular has been really good for the Chargers at the center position. Going up against a defensive line for the Oakland Raiders that just has not been very good. In terms of pass rushing ability, Bruce Irvin has been bad. Arden Key, I get it, a rookie, hasn't been good enough. So Phillip Rivers is going to have time in the pocket. Russell Okung is having a good enough year at left tackle. I think he will be fine against Bruce Irvin. So the Raiders are going to have to put up points in this game. Now, for Oakland, Derek Carr, key player that I'm watching, of course. Brandon Parker at right tackle. Watch out, because Donald Penn was placed on IR. He is done for the season. Insert the rookie tackle going up against perhaps one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL, in Melvin Ingram. Watch out, because you know that Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, is going to exploit that. He's going to put Melvin Ingram on that right side and make sure he goes after Brandon Parker and Derek Carr. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, of course, Phillip Rivers, one of my key players. Keenan Allen has been dinged up the last couple of weeks, though. He's been fine overall this year. And, of course, Melvin Ingram, who I just talked about. Without Joey Bosa still, it's the Melvin Ingram show in terms of pass rushing ability. So watch out for him in this game. I like this secondary for the Chargers as well. Casey Hayward, Trevor Williams, Desmond King at slot. Derwin James, the rookie, has been fantastic at free safety so far this year. So I will take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game. But the Raiders do cover. 23-20 is your final score. Some of these games usually are one-possession games, and I actually think this one is going to be very tight. These AFC West matchups tend to be dogfights. I think this game is no different. So the Chargers do win, but the Raiders cover in this game. The Raiders just don't have the defense. They just don't. I mean, I'm looking at this defensive depth chart here, guys. The best player on that defense might be Rashaan Melvin at cornerback. The front seven is not good. Mo Hurst is actually playing good-ish at defensive tackle, but that's really it. And I did pick the Raiders last week against the Cleveland Browns, but what I saw in that game, I mean, the Browns should have won. So I am just uber concerned about this defense here for Oakland. And if Baker Mayfield can light them up, Phillip Rivers can light them up. All right, let's talk about Minnesota taking on Philadelphia. This is a late window game, 4:25 Eastern Time in the city of brotherly love. The Eagles are the favorite, -3 in this game. Of course, a rematch of the playoffs last year when the Vikings got destroyed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, of course, went on to win Super Bowl 52. The Eagles are coming off an overtime loss to the Tennessee Titans, 26-23. You have the Vikings coming off a Thursday night loss to the Los Angeles Rams. So here's the deal. The Minnesota Vikings are too talented to have their season basically end this week. Now, in terms of key players for the Minnesota Vikings, I've got Kirk Cousins at quarterback, Mike Remmers at offensive guard. I'll explain why when we get to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then Sheldon Richardson at defensive tackle. Sheldon Richardson, new addition to that defense, has been absolutely stellar. Highly graded on Pro Football Focus right now. One of the spotlight players on the defensive side for Minnesota so far this year. I love this Vikings defense. Linval Joseph and Danielle Hunter as well at defensive end, Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Andrew Sendejo, Harrison Smith. These guys are playmakers. I think the Vikings make plays in this game. Now, for Philadelphia, Carson Wentz. He's looked good, but not good enough. Philadelphia is 2-2 on the season. Now I have Jason Kelce at center going up against Sheldon Richardson. That's a really fun matchup. Jason Kelce is one of the elite centers in the NFL. In fact, he's ranked #1 on Pro Football Focus right now at the center position. And then Fletcher Cox at defensive tackle. You may recall I had Mike Remmers there as a key player for the Minnesota Vikings. That's because Mike Remmers is going to have to try to block Fletcher Cox. And Remmers, in terms of his ranks at the guard position, he's 49th on Pro Football Focus. So that's a big-time mismatch there, all right? The line of scrimmage, going to be a fun matchup to watch on both ends. Minnesota's offense versus Philly's defense, and then vice versa there. Philadelphia is the favorite by 3, as I mentioned. That's a classic home field advantage spread there. I'm going to go Minnesota in this game. They win 35-28. I'm seeing some good things from Kirk Cousins, and here's something I didn't mention yet. I am very concerned about that secondary for Philadelphia. I don't think these corners can hang with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. I think the corners and the secondary are much better for Minnesota than they are for Philadelphia. And by the way, Adam Thielen, what can we say about him? He's been fantastic. He needs 100 receiving yards against the Eagles on Sunday to become the 3rd player in NFL history with at least 100 receiving yards in each of his team's first 5 games to start a season. That's pretty darn good. So who you got? V for Vikings, E for Eagles. Go ahead and type away in the comments section. Giving you guys my picks here for Week 5 in the NFL. I'll take Minnesota in this game. All right, let's talk about the battle of the Lone Star State. Dallas, Houston, Cowboys, Texans. 2-2, 1-3. Houston, the favorite, by 3. Now, the Texans are coming off a very lucky win over the Colts, 37-34 a week ago. The Cowboys defeated the Lions a week ago. Now, this is a really difficult game to predict because I just don't know about the Houston Texans yet. I'm concerned about this offensive line. The defense is a little leaky to me. But then on the Cowboys side of things, the offense is just so boring. It's so vanilla. It's so bland. Now, I did see some creativity against the Detroit Lions a week ago, and that was encouraging for me. But this has to be the Ezekiel Elliott show again, and really the entire season for the Dallas Cowboys. If the Dallas Cowboys want to make a push in the NFC East and the playoffs, Zeke has to be the reason why, but Dak Prescott has to be careful with the football per usual. And then I've got Byron Jones at corner, because guess who he is going up against? DeAndre Hopkins. And boy, is that going to be a fun matchup. Byron Jones on Pro Football Focus right now has an elite grade. So we have an elite corner, at least for right now, going up against one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins. That is a fun matchup on the outside. So for Houston, I'm looking at Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, and J.J. Watt. Looks like J.J. Watt is back and better than ever. So if you're looking at a game wrecker, J.J. Watt could be that guy. So I'm tracking the offensive line here for Dallas too. Wherever J.J. Watt lines up, La'el Collins, Tyron Smith, these guys got to be ready, especially Tyron Smith, because he is one of the premier left tackles in the NFL. I get it, but protecting Dak Prescott's blind side, super important. So if we have some Watt versus Tyron Smith matchups on Sunday night, which we probably will, and Chris Collinsworth, the analyst for NBC, is usually really good about pointing those one-on-one matchups on the line of scrimmage, it's going to be fun to watch. All right, so Houston is the favorite by 3. Who am I taking in this matchup on Sunday night? Give me Dallas, 26-23 in this matchup. So I think the Cowboys get the victory. Like I said, I just don't know who the Houston Texans are. I have a better idea about the Dallas Cowboys, and I think DeMarcus Lawrence is a pass rusher that we just don't talk about enough. We talk about J.J. Watt all the time, Jadeveon Clowney all the time, other players out there, but not DeMarcus Lawrence. And I think we should start. And if he balls out on Sunday night, we're going to talk about DeMarcus Lawrence a lot more. Now, you guys can, of course, bet on this game on BetDSI. Chatsports.com/bet is the link. You see it on the bottom of your screen. Be sure to use my promo code CAM120 for that 120% deposit bonus. Give me Dallas over the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. All right, one more game, actually a couple more games here. Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks. Now, Seattle beat the Arizona Cardinals 22-17 a week ago. The Rams are the favorite in this game, of course, by 7 on the road. They beat the Vikings on a Thursday night game, 38-31 a week ago. Seattle is bland. They're not fun. And it's almost kind of surprising they beat the Arizona Cardinals a week ago. With that said, Seattle has a tendency to be a different team at home. Sometimes, guys, games just don't make sense. Sometimes we just see these stunning results. Perfect example, the Minnesota Vikings versus Buffalo Bills. The Bills came out of nowhere and won that football game. Now, the Los Angeles Rams are 4-0 for the first time since 2001. They've scored at least 30 points in all of their games so far this year. With at least 30 points against the Seahawks, The Rams would become the 5th team to score at least 30 in each of their first 5 games to start a season in NFL history. The Broncos did it in 2013 with 8 straight games. The Patriots did it in 2007 with 8 straight games. The Rams actually did it with 8 straight games in 2000. Patriots in 2011 with 5. So who am I taking after all that? Give me Seattle in a stunner. 26-23. Look, no team is going undefeated this year. The Rams have to lose at some point. I know they're coming off a little mini bye here after that Thursday night game against the Minnesota Vikings, but still, I think the Seattle Seahawks get this victory. Honestly, guys, I can't explain why. Because if you look at every positional group, the Rams are better. But even still, it could be one of those weird games where Seattle just pulls it out. It's a gross score, 26-23, your final. And then finally, Arizona taking on the 49ers. Not going to spend too much time on this. 49ers are the favorite by -4.5. The Cardinals seeking their first win of the season. Josh Rosen has looked pretty darn good so far, and I think the Cardinals should have won that game against Seattle a week ago. So, more or less, they have some momentum coming into this game. The 49ers have been struggling in terms of pass protection. I think Josh Rosen is in for a very solid game against the 49ers, a pass defense that is ranked 22nd in the NFL. So let's get to my key players here. DeForest Buckner for the 49ers, George Kittle at tight end for San Francisco, and Pierre Garçon at wide receiver. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Mason Cole. Watch for him against DeForest Buckner. Josh Bynes is all over the football field at linebacker, having a good year. And then Patrick Peterson against Marquise Goodwin and or Pierre Garçon. So my prediction for this game, I'll take the Arizona Cardinals in this one. It'll be tight-ish and a gross score. 19-17, your final in Santa Clara. Sorry, 49ers fans out there. I think Arizona gets its first win of the season. They're going to win a football game at some point, kind of like the Rams are going to lose a football game at some point as well. All right, so my record so far this year, pretty good, 35-22. I'm back from the future here, and I'm telling you what's going to happen in Week 5 of the NFL. Pittsburgh wins this week. Buffalo is actually going to stun Tennessee. Cincinnati wins over Miami. Baltimore beats Cleveland. The Jets beat the Broncos. Packers win this week as well. We got the Chiefs over the Jaguars. Carolina Panthers are victorious this week. The Chargers take down the Oakland Raiders. Seattle stuns the Rams. Minnesota takes down Philadelphia. Arizona beats the 49ers. I got the Cowboys over the Houston Texans. And the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Drew Brees, chasing history, taking down the Washington Redskins, coming off a bye week, by the way. So those are my Week 5 picks. One final shout-out to BetDSI. You can make your picks at chatsports.com/bet. Go ahead and sign up today and use my promo code CAM120 for that 120% deposit bonus. Free money in that back pocket, ladies and gentlemen. Great stuff. Great stuff to all of you for tuning into the Cam Rogers Show. My name is Cam Rogers. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back here 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday morning.